The industry has a real thought leadership issue. Candidates now control the brand narrative much more than they ever have.
Who is going to dare do things like that?
The employer brand isn't what you say in a campaign, it's what you experience on a Tuesday afternoon in December.
Reddit is like Glassdoor, but on steroids. Welcome back to Hot Takes, the show with hot topics and even hotter takes. My name is Ben Fox, Social Media Director at Blackbridge Communications, and today I'm joined by Andrew Porter, Group Resourcing Director at Entain. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Nice and fresh, early start in the morning.
Yeah, you got here 2 hours early.
I did. I like to be keen and ready.
Nice. Do you want to start by telling us a little bit about Entain?
Yeah, so for those of people listening, watching, Entain is the group name for a vast number of consumer brands in the sports betting and gaming industry. So for those listening in the UK, probably better known through brands like Coral and Ladbrokes, which are very visible out on the high street. We are truly global. We operate in, I think at the moment, 36 countries. And our kind of real differentiator is the fact that we're a big proponent of only operating in regulated or regulating markets. So we are truly trying to do the right thing as a sports betting and gaming operator wherever we are in the world.
You've brought a couple of hot takes with you today. I've done the same. Should we go into your first hot take?
My hot take is that candidates now control the brand narrative for employer branding much more than they ever have. And I guess I say that because we are in this sort of enormously fast-paced world that's driven by social media. We know that from the outside world. And I think where that comes from is that because an opinion is so easily shared, everything is just faster, which means that what you can access on social media, you can have a bad interview or you can have a bad response from an organisation, and that gets out. That experience is suddenly out in the world much, much faster.
And social media has been a really good leveller, hasn't it, in that sense, that power struggle that previously might have existed, you know, from a brand perspective of we have jobs, you know, apply to us, send your CV and we'll decide if you're good enough. Now, the organisation has to be good enough. That hiring process has to be good. Do you have that fear internally that if you don't get that process right, people are going to out you now?
I think every organisation should have that fear. That has to be the starting point. It's almost like table stakes for an employer brand. If you come to an employer brand thinking you've got the upper hand, that power dynamic with a candidate has gone from the get-go. So I think just being aware of the ability for your glitzy brand to be torpedoed by a series of poor candidate feedback, I think is absolutely vital.
How do you make sure everyone's singing from the same hymn sheet?
Every candidate basically has their own media channel, don't they? You know, you're the editor of your social media channel. I think the genie's out of the bottle. You know, we've taken the cork off with social media, and we see, and everybody is exposed to the propensity of content that goes out and the speed that it goes out. But I do think this is here to stay. I think we have to adapt.
I think the biggest mistake in employer brand is trying to look too perfect on social. Would you ever dare differentiate and come out with some content on social that talks about some of the things that you're not so good at, or some of the progressive things you're doing, or some of the things where you say, look, we've got this wrong for the last 10 years and we're actually going to change? Who is going to dare do things like that?
My view on that would be employer brand isn't what you say in a campaign, it's what you experience on a Tuesday afternoon in December. Saying you're going to do something differently or accepting what people have said should be something that we embrace, because otherwise we become generic. But I think how we do that and the mechanisms for how we do that, I think, are more complicated in a larger organisation.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because the whole marketing world has talked about authenticity for such a long time.
we have to get away from this notion that employer brand is marketing. We have to be more savvy because our consumers of that content or that employer brand are savvy. I think that's the real key thing. I think what we have to see ourselves is almost like reverse influencers. I'm a massive fan of, kind of like real job previews, things like that, where people inside the organisation tell other people why they like working here. I think those are some of the most powerful things that we can use. Yes, we produce it really nicely. Yes, it looks slick. Yes, it looks professional. But it's real content by real people, given how fast things go out into the world. You've got to be transparent and you've got to be authentic.
And you're talking about leaders and you're talking about transparency. And there's a case that we've seen recently, the McDonald's CEO biting into the product, and that's blown up in their face, right? If that's what happens right at the top, what's happening every day? What's happening in the shops? What do people really think?
The BK McDonald's thing is a really good example of that, where did that get led by employer branding or did that get led by corporate communications? Well, I'm gonna throw a spicier one at you this time. And I think that the industry has a real thought leadership issue. And I worry that we're kind of reducing what we have as professionals down to what's easy to consume. And I guess there's that whole thing of the algorithm supports frequency rather than quality, and actually insight takes time. And I don't know whether we really understand or embrace that. We almost fuel a vacuum by the fact that we don't have a lot of time to do this or share those really insightful, thoughtful ideas. Instead, we're responding to noise, because I think if you've got lots of time and you are doing the kind of the outward broadcast of what you're doing, then I think social media rewards engagement rather than expertise. I think the greatest thing about being in recruitment is that you can fundamentally change someone's life. But if you're not thoughtful about that, and if you're not doing your best work, or if you're allowing the loudest voice to be heard, then it undermines our position as what we want it to be, which is be thought leaders. The algorithm, AI, etc., is a little bit of a danger to us, but it's also propagates falseness because those with the loudest voice drive that.
I've seen it before where you see some really interesting pieces of content around a campaign or an insight someone's got, but they don't share it in a way that the platform would find friendly.
We all need to be better at doing it, and actually we'd be a better industry, a better collective if we did share the best of what everybody's doing, not in detail, but just themes.
Right, so I've got a hot take for you. I think Reddit is like Glassdoor, but on steroids.
Interesting.
I'll tell you why. Because I think there's so much content on a platform like Reddit, and as employer brand specialists, we often completely overlook that as a channel. So on a channel like Reddit, there'll be anonymized profiles. People can say whatever they want, unfiltered content.
And I would contend that Reddit as an example of a platform in itself doesn't destroy an employer brand. What it does do is it exposes the gap between reality and the hype. There are so many more people contributing, so many more voices. With Reddit, and I'm going to talk really specifically, I don't think we have even thought about the input that Reddit might have. It's something that we're going to have to very seriously think about, because it fuels AI and what people see and then believe. And we've talked about various different elements of this. It just amplifies it again.
Reddit is the number one source for most of the AI platforms when it comes to information. So when you're looking at a sort of strategy around what you're doing there, I think it has to start with monitoring and understanding. Like, have most brand leaders ever gone onto Reddit and searched for the brand name to see what's being said? It's very rarely going to be positive, because people are using that platform as a place to discuss, to share information, and to make sure people have the latest of what's happening. If people are going onto Reddit and having those conversations, I think there's a huge fear from organizations about, how do you get involved? What do you say? Do you just kind of monitor from afar? Or do you just steamroll in there and say, no, this isn't right, that's not right? It's a balance of somewhere in between. But I would say lots of organizations, from the conversations I've had over the years, ignore it as a platform. They don't see it as somewhere where they have a right to get involved. And I think that's a huge mistake. Given what you said about AI, given what we know about user opinion, and given what we know about candidate experience, not being on a place like that, not even having an input, is a huge problem.
But if your employer brand can't survive honest debate with employees, irrespective of where they're doing it, whether it's Reddit, Glassdoor, LinkedIn, etc., was it actually that good to start with? Have you created something in isolation which is the shiny image that you want out there, or does it actually stand up to scrutiny on sites like Reddit, Glassdoor, etc.?
The personification of LinkedIn would probably be a person in a suit at a corporate event somewhere, having a very polite chat and small chat about work. Reddit, for me, would be more like a group of people down the pub having a very open and honest conversation. And I think sometimes those are the most valuable, because that's where we can learn a lot about ourselves as organisations, what we've done wrong, what we might need to improve. And it comes back again to that candidate experience we've been talking about. Right, well, thanks so much, Andrew, for coming on. How's it been?
It's been fantastic. Thank you. Good conversation, and hopefully people will find it interesting.
Yeah, and I appreciate your candour as well. That was a bit formal. Candour, Christ, what are we on? If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please like, subscribe, and leave some thoughts in the comments. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.